Hey guys, today I figured I would do a layout overview video. It's been a while since I did anything relating to my models, and this layout has gone under quite a few changes. So without further ado, here we are in the middle of the layout, but we shall start at the west end. So here we are at the west end of the layout with a little bit of undecorated track right next to a yard limit sign you can see here. This is the CB&Q interchange, and also the sighting track for the quote-unquote soup can elevator. You can see here there's a couple Rockies overlooking the layout. And if we continue on this way, there is a dead track overpass which leads into a tunnel, two sets of track underneath. This track, as kind of displayed with this diesel, is a CB&Q track, which down the line would lead to the interchange. This end of the layout functionally is an end to the Great Northern Route and is where the railroad interchanges with the CB&Q, so you can drop off or pick up cars. I have this dummy GP20 and also this 44 tonner, which is custom painted. The 44 tonner runs. This one, however, is dead in the water and only works as a display locomotive. The two tracks here work as a runaround for the interchange track and essentially allows you to run trains into the junction and then put the engine here and then back out, shove them, or to lead a train in this way, uncouple, and run the diesel back around here. Here we have some empties which have been dropped off by the GN, and these will either be picked up by the interchange or picked up and taken out the east end of the layout, which is where this tour will conclude. Here we have one of the first or second customers of the line, Larry's Coal & Power. This is a very simple coaling track which uses a unexpected dip in elevation, which I encountered due to there still being some terrain on the underside of these boards from one of the previous builds I used them for. When I flipped the boards and this side was clean, there was still a little bit of terrain on this one, which ended up with this board being a little bit lower. However, I used it to my advantage, and now Larry's Coal & Power now has a coaling track where you can take cars like these and shove them on there until they are empty. Behind it, you can see here a storage track, a siding where a tender has been turned into a fuel tanker, but does not have currently any decals on it. Here we have a municipal dock, also a dock which there's a reefer there for a reason. This is the Glacier Cafe, and they receive meat products and other goods from there, as well as this being a general customer for basically anyone willing to pay the fee. So any cars can be dropped there. You can see this 280 steam engine is on display. This was a Bachmann, which is actually number 3 of the consolidation class. One of the first Great Northern locomotives I had, one of the first engines I had in HO scale, which is the one that got me interested in the Great Northern partially. That one worked really well. However, it eventually did suffer from the cracked axle issue, and this was purchased as a replacement. However, the gear drive is in a different position. Basically, the power feeds to a different gear, so I wasn't able to use the gears from this one, leading me to purchase a third one, which ended up as my Rust Bucket Santa Fe, which was previously on display on another version of this layout and has since been sold. This one, however, is chosen to be on display here next to the diner. I find that paint job, which I believe is too light to be an accurate Glacier Park scheme, actually works really well, as it feels like something that kind of some secondhand enthusiasts might have painted it. And it's not exactly prototype, but it is on display. And of course the Glacier Park, or the Glacier Cafe next to the Glacier Park locomotive, hence my vocal typo, that has glacier green trim. Moving on, we have the parking lot here, as well as an access to the road, which is over here, my only railroad crossing on the layout. This is eventually going to get replaced with just some standard crossbucks, but for now I have these plastic ones with the lights, which were in a lot that I got. There's a Revel tower here, which has some added pieces of styrene with the Great Northern logos added. And that's pretty much just a junction tower in control of these switches in theory. There is this depot, and next to it is the tender of a Mallet locomotive, a 2662 I had, which was obviously numbered 1902. However, it ended up breaking, and that is the only remnant of it. You see here the back end of the depot. There's some people on there waiting for the train. There's some folks there that I'd like to think are watching the trains pass. And I will go ahead and flip around the other side and see here the close clearance sign, which is accurate. That can be quite the close clearance if you got more than one car running through there. Here you can see this side of the depot, which does have a Great Northern logo there, as well as a man on the dock. And this is pretty much serves as the proper staging for trains. I like to bring them up here. In my mind, this is where they get their kind of orders for the day, and then they proceed either east or west, depending. You can see here that at the crossing, I have this Great Northern maintenance away truck here. It's just little things, and by no means is this professional. You can see where the road is patched, and it's actually patched twice because this used to be another track, which I think was in when I did my last layout video, and that's been removed, and now it's just a single track. And then I recently had to redo this, which might eventually get redone with some proper like 3D or not 3D laser cut wood panels. I might end up replacing them, but for right now, that's just some balsa wood strips that have been glued down. I try to do everything budget, just to keep it as, financially inexpensive as possible. Most of the foam I use is from Walmart. Most of the paint I use is Apple Barrel acrylics from Walmart, 50 cents a bottle. I really can't beat it. You can see here there's an old John Deere that's sitting out next to the tracks, as well as a couple of other cars. You can see here that I've recently did the trim in Glacier Green. Moving on, this is the bridge, which connects this section of the layout, which is my original GCR table, which has been cut, if you couldn't tell, and kind of shortened in some capacity to the rest of the layout. This is a BRMP tower. I purchased it. It is an Ertl kit. I purchased it because I live near to the Ashford Junction, and I'm just so used to seeing that I wanted one on the layout. You can see that there's some couple of tie piles there. And then we move into the middle of the layout, which has the GP30 and the GP9 along with a caboose waiting. Here's where my controller is. I'm running basic DC for the time. And this functions essentially as a giant runaround for any customer that I need to sort. This is an end-to-end layout, so I don't have a reversing loop or a solid, continuous circuit. Instead, it's all right and then left, and then if cars need to be back there, then the engines need to be run around and put on the other end, and then shove the cars back or forward. And because of that, I have gotten a couple comments from people who are fans of the GN saying, well, why are you running the Jeeps short hood forward? They always ran long hood forward. In kind of the headcanon of the layout, the GN enters the layout from the west side, so this is the correct orientation. And of course, it is just a fact that with any railroad, they don't always have access to Ys or turntables, so sometimes you would be making moves in reverse. But here we come to another customer of the layout, which is the Pioneer Elevator and Warehouse. This whole facility is kind of the Pioneer area, and basically these guys receive the grain or commodity or whatever ingredient that the soup can elevator fills the cars with, and then they are delivered here, and then the warehouse produces goods from these, which is then shipped out via boxcar. So that's two separate types of cars along with other odd ones. Any customer on the layout can receive a coal hopper. Any customer on the layout can receive a fuel tanker. It allows endless switching potential. So moving on, we have a preserved caboose, which is a bobber that is at the Pioneer Elevator facility. And it's obviously preserved but not restored. We've got some just basic styrofoam with some scenery, a couple of things that I was given, filling up some space. And then we get to the next customer, which is American Express and Aristocraft Lumber. Now, American Express is essentially just a catch-all warehouse. They ship out and receive a lot of the goods for the town. I'm noticing here there's a fence down, so I'm just going to put that back up. But in my head, they also receive mail traffic off of mixed trains. And behind the American Express is the Aristocraft Lumber, which both receives and ships out. Well, it receives bulk lumber, which I have a couple cars of up here. So it essentially receives bulk lumber loads and then ships out processed lumber in cars. That was one of the cars that was down at Interchange, was a 50-foot braced box car, which the GN used for lumber. And although this is just kind of the small yard, in reality, this would go on much farther up through this area here and would go up to a sawmill along with a small paper production facility to really, to really kind of, I don't know, invest more into this industry, as I do like lumber. My town has a railroad, but it does not have a lumber industry, and boxcars are really next to none. There's a couple of small lumber outfits, but nothing that openly processes lumber. So I really wanted to kind of put a little bit more fixation on that, since the GN had a lot of that type of facilities in certain areas. And you can see here I got this broken Burrow crane off eBay for the cheap. I had to repair the boom because it was bent and the wires are completely messed up, but paired with the flatbed, it makes sense to have it there to help unload lumber. And Axe is a nice set piece to kind of get that idea across. But realistically, it doesn't do anything. This one's a reclaimed Tyco crane, which I made a base of balsa wood with, and that again, the wire is just kind of glued in place. You can see here this very basic billboard, which was some cardstock purchased off of eBay with the Great Northern slogan on it, and that's just toothpicks that have been glued in place to make a billboard. And continuing on this way, there's a little bit of unfinished scenery up here, so don't look at that. But this is the Lion Co. Plastics plant. This is supposed to be a small-time 1960s, as the layout is based roughly 1964, which is new enough for the Glacier Green to be basically brand new, and also for the Great Northern to have their Phase 2 Empire Builder scheme, but it's not new enough for the Big Sky Blue scheme to be in. So all the diesels are either an Empire Builder Phase 1 or 2, which is just my preference, as well as being the earlier diesels instead of the later generation Elcos and EMDs. I wish that the GN would have had the SD45s in 1965 or 66, but I believe, off the top of my head, I believe they were built in 1967. I would have to go and double check that. It might actually be 1966. But I would love to have Hustle Muscle on here, but for the longest time, my track work wasn't the best, and it wouldn't actually handle 6-axle diesels. Now I can actually get an SD7 or SD9 pretty much around most of the track work, a little hesitant on the switches and stuff on the industrial track work, but now I could probably get away with it. But even still, keeping it relegated to the 2 liveries, it kind of keeps my impulsiveness down when it comes to purchasing locomotives and rolling stock. So that's honestly a plus. Anyway, Lion Co. So Lion Co. is actually a amalgamation of the words Lionel and Tyco. This is supposed to be some kind of generic plastics factory in the 1960s. So they get in boxcars with plastic pellets, and then of course they ship out product in boxcars. They do make toy trains. They also get chemicals, which gives me an excuse to use these hooker tankers that I got in. They say Niagara Falls, New York on them. I live near to Niagara Falls, so it's just kind of cool. I'm pretty sure that there's a Tacoma, Washington variety, which is probably what I need to pick up to make this more correct, but oh well. You can see here I have a yard caboose shoved back in there, and obviously right now I have a regular GN caboose on the consist, so that's what I've been using. I have went on record and said that this plant pretty much produces everything from toy trains all the way to M16 furniture, a reference to the or Armalite furniture, a reference to the 1964 year. You can see that there is a deuce and a half back there. I believe that's what those are called, the military truck. And you can see there's a chemical tanker here, and there's a fuel tank here, as well as an extra fuel tank here. So this business can get boxcars, it can get hoppers of like raw material, it can get tankers of both chemicals and fuel. It allows me to switch out at will. And then this leads to the next area of the layout, which is probably my most contested kind of functional question mark. Obviously, due to this room, this garage, I'm limited to what I can build and how much I can build, which is also the reason why, although I do fully call this thing a shelf layout, it does have legs, because I don't want to put full structural integrity on these walls and have something happen, because I am renting. So it is set up, in fact, as a kind of a table layout. The layout itself of the track and everything is very much shelf oriented. But currently this is the kind of main line / the yard of the layout. This basically serves as, well, a yard where I can go and pull any cars that I need from or store some. But this would also be the technical originating point of the layout, whereas I have these little wire protectors here to keep rolling stock and locomotives from rolling off the edge. One of these lines would in fact continue and would continue on to GN trackage. So at the east or the west end of the layout, it concludes with the CV&Q interchange. This technically originates with further GN trackage. And above here is what I said was contested. This is the remnants of my fictional short line, the Great Cascade Railway, which originally was the first table over there and has since been relegated to kind of this, not scrapyard, because scrapyard's certainly got a bad kind of connotation to it, but it's a storage site, and things get scrapped, like this GN coach, which was deemed too far gone. But I got the steam engines and stuff that I ran for the GCR. I got this RS1 that's an ex-Rutland. And you know, that works perfectly fine, but I just have it stored. I keep my other 040 with the rest of my locomotives in a separate place, which was, of course, the first engine, which I bought used, which said Great Cascade Railway and inspired my railway name. So currently these are all just kind of sitting up here, and then down below is the yard, which, like I said, just stores whatever cars I need and acts as shoving space or storage or whatever I need it to be. And I'm not sure if this is going to stay like this. I mean, as I was building it, I did build it to be a standard simple DC layout, but then the track I used was whatever I had on hand, so it wasn't the greatest. And it does function, but as a switching layout, it just caused a lot of derailments. So it was previously a flood loader for gravel industry, and instead I decided to get rid of the loader that was right here. You can see where the loading track previously was and the two holes for the mounting of it. I decided to get rid of it and instead just use the stone backdrop against just basically a yard. But this is the GN layout as of 2024. You never know when you're going to move, or whatever happens. It's just part of life. So I decided I would give you guys an update, and I guess also for preservation's sake of my own work. So I hope you guys enjoyed this pretty amateur layout video. It's certainly nothing compared to a lot of the stuff that I see on the internet and on YouTube. I'm blown away by other people's layouts, but it is something, and it does keep me entertained. I can easily spend 30 minutes on a switching session, or even a couple hours if I really dedicate to it. I recently picked up a couple of passenger cars, and if life presents me the opportunity, I certainly would like to rebuild a new layout with at least some form of a continuous loop so I can run passenger equipment. I do have a 3 set there of some Craftsman coaches, and I can run them on this, but obviously with passenger it's a lot less complex than switching out freight cars. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll probably see you guys in another video soon enough.